Okay, so last time we discussed body effect and all these concepts. So today we will discuss the another non-linear effect in the MOSFETs, which we call as the capacitances. So you might be aware that as you saw the structure of the MOSFET here, which is given, then you will feel like, since we are doing something like, some N plus is there on sitting in the layer of P substrate here. So when you do some implantation of N plus, or you do implantation of P plus is just a heavy P, a heavily doped P. So when you write P type, then you know it's a P type semiconductor. But if you do a plus on top of it, then it means you are heavily doping it with more number of holes. So that means P plus. So here it's okay, but if you have this junction which is N plus and then you have a P substrate, then you all will agree that there will be a diode formation here in the interface, because here you have N and here you have P. Then obviously there will be a formation of a diode because of these two, P and N junction coming close to each other. Similarly, here also there will be a diode which is formed. So these diodes, as you might have studied in your earlier lectures, also in your basic electronics, all these diodes have some capacitance also involved in that, the parasitic capacitance. So that type of parasitic capacitance we are actually looking in modeling the model of MOSFET. So here, if you see, I have represented the uh, capacitance of this MOSFET. This is the main MOSFET that you have. This is the main MOSFET. Right now we are discussing NMOS. So this is the main NMOS MOSFET that you have. And what we are doing, we are actually writing the capacitance of these MOSFETs. Like what are the capacitance that are involved in this MOSFET. Uh, just a second, actually my laptop is getting heated. So I'm just checking it around like what is the problem, and I'll get back to you in a second. Okay, my laptop is running at a very high fan speed, so let me, still I'm bothered about it whether it will shut down or not, but let us discuss the class and see. So, are you able to hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Okay, so here, we have capacitance involved in these MOSFETs, and so, this is the drain terminal, as you already know. This is the source terminal, and this is the gate terminal. So we have capacitance at every connection. So here from gate to drain, we will have this capacitance which we are calling as CGD. By CGD means the capacitance between the gate and the drain terminal of the MOSFET. The second one is CGS, the capacitance that is connected from gate to source. So you will have a capacitance between gate and source also. And then we have a capacitance CSB, that is the capacitance between source and bulk terminal. And we have another capacitance which is drain to bulk, which we are calling as CDB, that is the capacitance that connects drain to bulk. And one more which is CGB. So there are a lot of capacitance that are involved in this MOSFET design. So we have to consider some of them, and some of them we have to leave. So these capacitances right now will not be of any use to you, but it will definitely come later on when you will understand the frequency response of these amplifiers. So in when we will discuss the frequency response, then you will see these capacitances will come. In your BJT also, I think you must have covered the frequency responses of the BJT transistor, and there you might be knowing that we have capacitances in the BJT also. So similarly, here also in MOSFETs, we have these intrinsic capacitances. These capacitances are called as intrinsic capacitances, and the reason why we are calling it as intrinsic capacitance, the reason is that it is not coming because you are putting these capacitances. It is coming because you are actually putting two layers of P and N, or N or P or something like that. It is coming by itself because you are the geometry of the MOSFET is such a way that these capacitances are automatically created and you are not creating it. So it is intrinsic. That's why we call these capacitances as intrinsic capacitances. And the capacitance that you put yourself from outside, that are called as extrinsic capacitances. So these are the two terms that normally you will find out in in analog design. So intrinsic means it is all internal and it's not in your hand. So let us see how these capacitance values changes as this device changes from triode to saturation to cutoff. So depending upon the region of working, we will see that how these devices actually change their value. So here if you see, in this case, your device is off. What is your device is off means? Your device is off means your VGS is very less, is less than VTH, and you know, when the VGS is less than VTH, your device is completely cut off. It's not working. So when it is not working, I can here you can see the diagram of this MOSFET, a small diagram of this MOSFET. So here, if the channel is not there, if the channel is not formed, then what is the gate to drain capacitance? The gate to drain capacitance means the capacitance that we are working over here, this one, because this is the drain terminal of the MOSFET and this is the gate terminal. So the capacitance that is formed in between the two is this capacitance, the one which I am highlighting over here. So you can see this capacitance is the gate to drain capacitance. And what is gate to source? Gate to source will be this capacitance. That is the connection between gate and source, which is the source terminal over here. So you can see we have a source terminal here. So the capacitance that forms between the two is this one. And the value of that is WCOV. This is the value. What is W? W is the width of the transistor and COV is the overlap capacitance. By overlap capacitance means, as you can see here, if I zoom it, there is some portion of this region which is overlapped with the gate, and some of that, and this region is not overlapped. This region is not overlapped with the gate, but this yellow region is overlapped with the gate. So whatever is overlapped here, that will form COV, the capacitance. So that is why what we are calling it as overlap capacitance, and its value is farads per meter. So in order to get the capacitance, you have to multiply with something in meters to get the value in farads. So that's why we multiply it with the width of the MOSFET, that multiplies with overlap capacitance to give you the value of CGD and CGS. And please note, both the values will be same. As you have, by looking here also, you can observe that the capacitance that is over here and the capacitance that is over here will be same if there is no channel. The next is gate to bulk. The gate to bulk capacitance is, this is your gate and this is your bulk. So you know there are two capacitance. One capacitance is this capacitance, another one is from this to this. This is from channel to bulk. This is from gate to channel, the C1. So as you know, these two capacitances are in series. The series combination of the capacitor is like this: C1 C2 upon C1 plus C2. So the gate to bulk capacitance will be WLCOX times C2 upon WLCOX plus C2. What is WLCOX? WLCOX is the capacitance which is C1. Which is C1? C1 is this one. This one. This is capacitance C1. And its value is given by WL times COX. What is COX? COX is the capacitance of this particular region where you have the oxide layer thickness, which we are calling as TOX. So what you do is, there is a capacitance here. That capacitance value is obtained by using WL times COX. What is COX? COX is epsilon naught OX divided by TOX. where TOX is the thickness of the oxide layer which is sandwiched between gate and channel. That is this thickness. This thickness is TOX. This thickness is TOX. So you are actually multiplying with the W times L because COX is farad per micrometers square. So you have to multiply with the area which is W times L to get WL and this C2 is from the device theory. There is no point in understanding this because for this you require to know device physics. So I don't want to go into the details of it. But this, I think you can, you can just take it as such that C2 is the value of C2 is this. Okay, so when you move into triode region, that is when your transistor moves from cutoff to triode, what happens is your gate to drain capacitance and gate to source capacitance, the value of that becomes this. That is C1 by 2 plus WCOV, where WCOV is the overlap capacitance which we have discussed right now, and WLCOX is the capacitance that we were discussing here, the C1 capacitance. This C1 capacitance is WLCOX. So what it is saying is in triode region, if your channel is formed, if a bit of electrons are there, then what happens is this capacitance which is in between the gate and the channel, which we are calling as C1, it is divided equally in between the source and drain. So this capacitance is actually divided into two parts, and first half of it goes to the source and half of it goes to the drain. That's why we are dividing it by 2, and we are saying in triode region both these capacitances are equally shared. So that's why it is C1 by 2 plus WCOV. WCOV is the original overlap capacitance that I was discussing here. This is the overlap here. So that is also added. This is the original one. Whereas the gate to bulk, the one which we were discussing earlier, this gate to bulk, this one, the C, this one, and the parallel combination of that, that one we neglect here in case of triode region. And the reason for neglection is that inversion layer that is formed, it acts as a shield between the gate and the bulk. That's why we actually take CGB as 0. We approximate it to be 0 in triode region. Now, in case of saturation, when your transistors are in saturation, what happens is, as you all know, in saturation, your channel will be, this is your source, this is your drain. Your channel will be like this. So, your channel will be like this in saturation and there will be a pinch off. So, what they have observed is when they calculated the capacitance of this shape, because the shape is changed, so they calculated the capacitance of this shape. Then what they observed is that the gate to source capacitance, because this side the capacitance is high and this side the capacitance is low because there is no width at all. So here the capacitance contributed from gate to source is 2 by 3 times WLCOX. Earlier, this WLCOX was divided into two parts equally between source and drain. But now when it is in saturation, the 2 by third part of the WLCOX will be to the source plus the WCOV, which is the original overlap capacitance between the gate and source. Whereas the gate and drain will not have this contribution at all because this thing is pinched off here. So the only contribution that you have is W times the overlap capacitance, which is here, the original overlap capacitance that we were discussing. Again, the gate to bulk is taken as 0. So if you have any doubts here related to the discussion that I have made, then let me know. Any questions? Okay. If you don't have any questions, then I can again, just a second. Okay. So if you do not have any questions, then we can move forward. So here, what you have is you have a gate to drain and gate to source. These are the capacitance that we are plotting actually with respect to the VGS, that the voltage that we are applying. So you all know that we have already calculated these capacitances. The only thing that I want is to plot these values on the graph, nothing else. So this is already we have calculated. So let's plot these values. So these values will be plotted in this way, as you can see here. It's very easy. You can also do it yourself because you have calculated the values. So what we are doing, this region we know it's a cutoff region because your VGS is less than VTH. So that's why it's called as cutoff. This region is called as saturation because if you calculate this value taken as VDS plus VTH, if you take this value, your VGS is less than VDS plus VTH in this region, and it's greater than VTH, as you can see here from this point. So when you change this value, if you adjust this, then it is less than VTH. This is the saturation condition. So you are in this area you are working in saturation, and after this you are working in triode because your VGS is greater than VGS is greater than VDS plus VTH. So this area is triode area. So now you can easily put the values that we have calculated, and what you observe here is that your W that your CGS varies from WCOV, and in saturation it goes up like this, and when it comes to triode it settles down at this point, the value of CGS. Whereas your CGD, if you see if you see your CGD will be like this in triode. The value is same as that of CGS, but as it moves into saturation, the value doesn't change at all. It remains the same. But when it moves to triode, its value increases and both of them settles down to the same value. So this is the normal plot for CGD and CGS. It is very simple. You can just take the values that we have calculated and put it here. You will get the answer. So the pattern is simple. So this is the variation of CGD and CGS capacitance, which are very important capacitances in case of MOSFETs, and we will see how we will use it when we will understand the frequency responses. But this is the behavior that you have for the MOSFETs. So, do you have any questions related to this? Otherwise, if it is not there, then we can move forward. Okay, so if there are no questions, so let me write something here. So now we have discussed everything related to MOSFETs. So let's create a large signal model for this. I will, by saying large signal model means when your MOSFET model that we discussed last time, if it is subjected to large signals, then what kind of model it is, how to represent it. That is the thing. So I think we have not discussed anything related to the MOSFET modeling, like how we model a MOSFET. Think we have not discussed it. Okay, so if we have not discussed it, then what we will do is we will discuss it today. So in case of large signal model, as you know, if we have two conditions, like if we have VGS greater than VTH, and if your VGS minus VDS is less than VTH, can anybody tell me what is the area in which we are working now? If these are the two conditions, if the MOSFET meets these two conditions, where it is operating now?
Triode region.
It is operating in triode region. Are you sure? No, it's not operating in triode. It's operating in saturation.
Saturation.
It's operating in saturation. So if it is operating in saturation, so the large signal model that we write for this is like this. This is your source, this is your gate, and this is your drain. We represent it like this way. One is your gate terminal, one is your source terminal, another one is your drain terminal. So one thing that is important is, I will tell you here, if you have a MOSFET M1, what happens is if you look into this side, if you look from here, if you go from this side, what you will observe is, because we have a capacitance here and there is no current flowing in the gate terminal, there is no current flowing because this is a capacitance and capacitance does not allow any current to flow through it. So the gate current that is flowing in it is zero. So if the gate current going in it is zero, that means if there is no current flowing means it's a open circuit, because if it's an open circuit then only current will not flow through it. And if it is an open circuit means it is having a very high resistance. You can say that the resistance is very high. Let us call it as infinity. So if the resistance is very high, that means I is equal to V by R, and if you put infinity here then the current will become zero. So by saying it's an open circuit means the resistance is infinite. You can say like that also. And the infinity resistance is coming because your current is not going inside because of the capacitance that is formed in between the this in this region. So capacitance is not allowing, and there is no current flowing here. So Ig is zero. Ig means the gate current is zero. So if gate current is zero, what we do is we keep this as open circuit. We do not connect anything here, it's an open circuit. And the potential that is formed in between gate and source, we call it as VGS. This is the potential that we call it as. Here we are calling it as VGS. And right now, please note, I will tell you the details of it, but right now what we will do is we will write it as capital VGS. I will tell you the reason why I am doing so. So this is capital VGS right now, and this capital VGS means I am applying DC voltage here. That's why it's a capital VGS. So this will be open as so now I think there will be no I think you would have understood why I am putting it as an open circuit. So this is capital VGS which is applied over here, and the value is plus over here and minus this side. So it's a VGS. And when the transistor is in saturation, it operates as a current source. So that current source we represent by this, like this. This is the current source. And the value of this current source is, because it's in saturation, you will write it as mu n CoX W by L divided by 2 VGS minus VTH whole square times 1 plus lambda VDS. So this is the equation of the current that you have in saturation. And note that all these values that I am writing over here are DC values. They are DC values. We will understand what this means in a while, but please note they are all DC values, DC voltages that you are applying. So this is the model, large signal model for MOSFETs. And why we are saying large signal model? Because here the signals can vary large. I will tell you what that is in a while, but you can apply large signals over here. So it's a DC model. It's not a small signal model. So this is one of the situations where transistor is acting in saturation. So if it is in, let us say, if you have the second condition where your VGS is greater than VTH and VGS minus VDS is greater than VTH, and in this position and in this condition, transistor is operating in triode. If the transistor is operating in triode here, then the MOSFET model will be like this. Here it is source, this is gate, this is your drain, this is open circuit, and it is written as VGS, and this one will be again a current source, but this current source will be 1 by 2 mu n CoX W by L VGS minus VT times VDS minus VDS square by 2. So this will be the equation of the current I which is flowing. And note that this current or this current, this one, it is dependent upon VGS, which is the controlling voltage here. So it's a current, it's a voltage dependent current source. I think you must have covered in your basic electronics. There are some current sources which are voltage dependent. We represent it like this. This is current dependent voltage source. So if this is like let us say 3V, then your current is basically dependent upon the voltage that you are applying somewhere else. So that voltage controls this current source. So this is similar to that. So here we have, in the case of triode region, this is the model. And if your VGS is less than, if your VGS is greater than VTH and your VGS, sorry, and if your VDS is much, much less than 2 VGS minus VTH, then you will all agree that this equation we have already discussed, it's a condition where the transistor is operating in deep triode. So in that case, your model will be, it is VGS here, and then it will represent like a resistor. And the value of this resistor also we had calculated earlier, and this value is mu n cox W by L VGS minus VTH. Again note that all these values that you are having here are DC values. They are DC values and not AC values. They are DC values. So here also same thing in this also. So these are the large signal models that I am showing over here. And now, if anything, if you have any doubts till here, then let me know. Otherwise, we will move further, with the next topic. So if you don't have any questions here, then let us discuss small signal models. Small signal models. So let us understand what this small signal model means. Actually, if you have a MOSFET, which is given over here, what happens is normally we want to, I think you must have studied in your, basic electronics course that you have to bias this MOSFET using the DC voltages and then you apply a sinusoidal signal on top of it. Have you gone through that type of thing? Uh, can you just give me a quick feedback on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, so that is important. Like, when you apply a DC voltage to these MOSFETs, so the role of DC voltages is to make these transistors go into the proper region, that is the saturation region, where we can, then apply a small test signal, which is very small, on top of the DC voltage so that we can get some amplification. So that is our main job. So here that thing can be, done by, applying a small a small sinusoidal signal on top of the gate source voltage that you apply as a DC voltage. So this is your sinusoidal signal and this is basically a small VGS. So please note what I am writing as a convention is, if I am writing everything small, like if I am writing small v and small gs, that means it's a AC voltage. And if I am writing a capital V with capital GS, then it's a DC voltage I am talking. And if I write something like this, like small v and capital GS, then it's basically a combination of this plus this. So when I write small v capital GS means it is DC voltage plus AC voltage sitting on top of it. So this is the convention that we will be using in explaining some of the concepts here. So as you know, when you applied a gate voltage, so gate source voltage which is a DC voltage and you are making VGS sit on top of it, then what exactly you are doing in terms of the characteristics plot is that you have a VGS here and you have a ID and there is a ID versus VGS plot that you are doing. Then what you are doing is in this VGS, when you are putting this VGS, that VGS value will be actually setting up this value here. So this is basically the capital VGS, let us say 1, and this is also 1. So once you put a DC voltage of VGS1, you are actually setting up the Q point. This is actually setting up of the Q point. And this value will be, let us say ID1. So all these ID1 and VGS1 are the DC values. And now when you keep the small signal VGS on top of it, that means what you are doing is, let me remove this. So what you are doing is you are actually making a small sinusoidal signal sitting on this VGS1. So this small sinusoidal signal is actually small VGS, which is sitting on the blue line, which is your capital VGS1. So when you perturbate this value of capital VGS1 by a small VGS, so this value will increment by VGS and then again it will decrement also by VGS. During the negative phase, it will be minus, and during the positive phase, it will be plus. Then what happens is your ID will also change. Your ID will also change like this. So here your ID variation will also come, and this ID variation will be that on top of ID1 you will have ID1 plus small ID1, and at the bottom it will be capital ID1 minus small ID1, like this. So the main purpose of doing this analysis is this, because we are using this small signals, that's why we call as small signal here, because we are putting small signal on top of the DC voltages. That's why we are calling this as small signal. But what is the reason behind it? Why we want to do it? The reason behind this is this MOSFET model, which is M1, is a non-linear model. This is a non-linear model. As you can see, this line is completely non-linear. And from your circuit theory, from your basic electronics, when you did all the analysis like Thevenin theorem or nodal analysis or KCL, KVL, what you have observed is, maybe you have not observed. I don't know about it, but what you might have thought of is, like, all these circuits which you are using and you are applying KCL, KVL, and all the theorems that you have understood from your basic electronics course. They are all based on the assumption that the models that you are using, the R, the C, the L, all these models that you are using, which are formulating the circuits, are all linear. That is one of the basic assumptions. All these elements, all these circuit elements are linear. They assume that, and then they do the nodal analysis. But here, this MOSFET M1 which you are using is non-linear. So what researchers have thought is how to apply our concepts of circuit theory in this MOSFET M1 which is non-linear. How to do it? How can we use nodal analysis here? What is how to apply KCL, KVL here? As you know, this is a non-linear. We cannot do it because assumption for all the circuit theory is that the elements are to be linear. So that's why this small signal thing came. Here, you apply a small signal. So when you apply a small signal, what happens is you are actually operating in this smaller regime. If you see here, you are operating in this smaller regime. But if you see from this part, what you observe is this curve is highly non-linear. But when you zoom like this, and if you continuously zoom, then what it becomes now? Can you explain what it becomes now? If you zoomed it to a very large value, what this line is becoming now? Anyone?
Linear.
So yeah, so that is the thing. You zoomed it, actually your perturbation is so small that the yellow line becomes linear now. So if this line becomes linear, now you can use your circuit theory concepts. So that is the motivation behind this small signal analysis, and the motivation is you change the voltage in small fashion, in a very small fashion, so that you are in this region only, and this region will then become linear, and then you can use your circuit theory concepts to determine different properties of this MOSFET, whether it's a voltage gain, current gain, or whatever be the thing. So that's why we are interested in understanding the small signal behavior of this MOSFET, so that we can replace this MOSFET. We can replace this MOSFET by some linear stuff. So in order to understand this, we have to do some modeling of this. So what they have observed is, let us see now. So there is one quantity which we call as GM. So let us understand this first. What is GM? GM is called as the transconductance of the MOSFET. So GM is the transconductance of the MOSFET, and it is defined as the derivative of the partial derivative of ID with respect to VGS when your VDS is constant. So this is what your the definition of GM is. So the definition of GM means this is what they are actually looking for. They want to calculate the derivative of this ID versus VGS plot, and they want to see what this GM value is. GM actually is basically a figure of merit of the transistor. By figure of merit means, you know, we want to analyze that if we change the gate to source voltage of the MOSFET, how much current will change. If you change very little of gate to source and your current changes into a larger amount, then it's a very good transistor because it is converting your gate into current with a very large amount. But if you apply a small gate to source and if your change in current is also small, then the GM is small, and that is not a good sign for the transistor. So we want our GM of the transistors to be very high. That is, change in the gate source voltage results in very high change in the drain current. So we want that type of characteristics in the MOSFET. So we want to quantify if the two transistors, which transistor is good. If there are two transistors available, then the transistor which is having very high GM is the very good transistor compared to the transistor which is having very less GM. So if you want to calculate the derivative of the ID with respect to VGS, when your VDS is constant, VDS is constant means this curve is constant. You are not going to another curve which is this one. So when your VDS is constant means this curve is fixed. And now in order to calculate the derivative, you take a small segment of it and you do a Taylor series expansion, or you perturb it a bit at this point, and then you get the slope of this line. So why we are doing it? Because we are actually want to quantify the small signal characteristics. That's why we are doing all this analysis. So if you do this, that means you are actually taking the derivative with respect to VGS, and then what is the equation of the currents in the saturation? It is like this. So it will now be VGS plus small vgs minus VTH square. And these two actually is equivalent to small v capital GS, like this. Ideally this also has to be like this, small v and then capital GS. So what you are doing now is you are actually taking a derivative of this small v capital GS. So if you are taking the derivative of this, basically no, for here it is not that, it will be this small v, because this is the quantity which is changing. So when you take the derivative of this equation which is ID with respect to this, what will happen is you will actually get what you will get. Can anybody tell me? If you take the derivative, it will be nothing but this 2 will cancel out with this 2 at the bottom, and what you are left with is this mu n CoX W by L. Then you have VGS plus VGS minus VTH. This is the one which is left when you take the derivative of ID with respect to VGS. And you know that VGS is very small as compared to the capital VGS. This is the assumption that we are making. So this term will go away. So your GM will be mu n CoX W by L. Then you have VGS minus VTH. This is the expression for GM in saturation. So this is first equation, and you can also come up with multiple versions of it. So you have GM here which is defined as mu n CoX W by L VGS minus VTH, which we have just defined. Then you have another version of GM also, which you can get yourself. Its value is 2ID mu n cox w by l. So this is the second version of GM, and how you will obtain it? You can obtain it easily if you substitute the value of ID, the one which we calculated for the saturation here. If you substitute that, you will get this. And the third version is 2ID over VGS minus VTH. These are the three different versions of GM. You can use any one of them. So these are the three different versions of GM. And if you see the plots, how it will vary. So in this case, the first case, if you put VGS minus VTH here and put GM here, and if you keep ID constant, then what will happen? For this particular curve, sorry, if you see this, if you keep ID constant, then if you want to vary GM with VGS minus VTH, it will come like this. The pattern will be like this. It's a hyperbola. So if your ID is constant here, and it's also visible from this equation very easily. For this curve, for this equation, if you plot, let us say, just a second, if you plot uh, ID here, and if you plot GM, and your W by L is a constant. If your W by L is a constant, and if you want to plot GM with ID for this particular equation, then it will be like this, because it's square root of ID if W by L is a constant. Whereas for this case, where you have this one, you have to find out how it will vary with VGS minus VT. If you want to plot GM versus VGS minus VT, it is very easy, right? If you want to plot that keeping your W by L constant, then your GM with VGS minus VT, which will be like linear. It will be a linear relation between the two. So these are the different plots for this GM that you are having here, the three different plots of GM. Now, what you have done is you have actually taken the derivative of the input characteristic, which is ID versus VGS for a constant VDS. So when you took the derivative of this curve, what you observed is that value is called as GM. Now what we are doing now is we will take the derivative of ID with respect to VDS for the output characteristics with VGS constant. And I want to see what resistance this is offering. That is the ID versus VDS curve. So when you do the analysis, I am not going to do it. If you take the derivative of this curve, that is ID versus VDS, that is the derivative of ID versus VDS, keeping your VGS constant. If you do that, what you observe is its value is basically what? This is basically the output resistance, the inverse of that. And if you calculate the value of taking the derivative of ID with respect to VDS, keeping VGS constant, by saying VGS constant means your this curve is fixed. So once you do that, your answer will come out to be this. This lambda we have already introduced, and ID set is the saturation current ID, which value is given as mu n CoS W by L VGS minus VT whole square. So this is the output resistance offered when you are taking the derivative of the output characteristics, and when you take the derivative of the input characteristics, the value is called as GM, which is called as transconductance. So now you observe that we are taking a small fluctuation here and a small fluctuation here to quantify the input and the output characteristics. So when we quantified it, let us draw the small signal model now. So the small signal model will be represented as this. We have gate, then we have drain here, and we have source, As I told you already, the gate and source terminal will be open circuited because there is no gate current flowing. It will not be there. And please note, now it is small VGS. Earlier, what I wrote here was capital VGS because it was a large signal model. Here we are dealing with small signal, so we are writing as small VGS. And now comes the important part. Now you have a controlled source, and this controlled source has two components. One is GM, which we have already calculated from the input characteristics here. We took the derivative and saw that it's GM, and this depends upon VGS, the voltage that you are applying here. That is why it's a voltage controlled current source. And the second thing that you observed from the output characteristics was that you have a output resistance also, which we call as RO. So this RO is the output resistance and its value is 1 over lambda ID saturation. And please note, this value you calculate through DC values. This value is calculated through DC values, not with the AC values. As you know, its value is VGS minus VT whole square mu n CUX W by L half. So this value is calculated, that is ID sat is calculated through DC values of VGS, not from the not from the AC values. So this RO is 1 over lambda ID sat. So this is the small signal model for NMOS. Any doubts here regarding this? Anyone having any doubts? Okay, if you do not have any doubts, then uh, I want to stop here because it's already, we are reaching the time. But the only thing that I wanted to tell you is, which is the important thing, is that PMOS MOSFETs are also having the similar model, this one. That is, whatever model you have created for NMOS, the same small signal model will work for PMOS. So let us see that and then we will finish it off. So in PMOS, what you have is, I told you to write source on the top and then drain at the bottom. So if you draw this circuit, it will be like this. How will it look like? It will be like this. Here you have source terminal, and what you have here is you have gate terminal here, and then you have drain terminal. And what happens is your voltage now is this, is VSG, because S is greater than G and G is greater than D, the voltage. And here you have this thing going like this, because current is going from source to drain, so it is like this, GM VSG, and then you have a output resistance RO. So if this is the MOSFET model for PMOS, so if PMOS is there, you will replace it by the small signal model like this. But one thing to observe here is that if I replace VSG with VGS, then what will happen? If I replace VSG by VGS means it's very simple now. So if VSG is replaced by VGS, then this will become plus and this will become minus and this becomes VGS. And if this becomes VGS, because I am replacing VSG by VGS, let us say, then if this becomes VGS, this also becomes VGS, and if this becomes VGS, we will move this as VGS here, and will rewrite like this. And everyone, and I think most of you will agree that if I'm making it as VGS, the current source will move upwards like this. The direction of the current source will be like this now. So if the direction of the current source is now going up, then you can flip this around. You can flip this around by 180 degrees vertical. Then you will observe that this model is same as that of the NMOS, the one which we have drawn here, this one. So you can see if you flip this, if you make drain come here and gate on top, and then you make source downside, you make it 180-degree flip vertical, then this voltage, so this MOSFET model is same as PMOS. So you don't have to worry in case of small signal models that we will go later on when we will understand the small signal gain and all that. What you have to do is you have to just replace the MOSFET model that you have for PMOS with the same as that of the NMOS model. But the only thing that you have to take care is where is the source, where is the drain, and where is the gate connected for these MOSFETs. So, so any doubts here? Anything related to the MOSFET modeling? If you have any doubts, let me know. Otherwise, we will finish this class today. Any questions?
Sir,
Yeah.
in that three different nature of transconductance, which is more acceptable or which is mostly used? Could you
Actually,
please?
it's like, basically depending upon your situation. Like when you design a circuit, if you keep, if you want the W by L of the transistor to be same, so as you can see here, we have, here, if you see the plots, just a second. Where it is? If you see here, we have a constraint, like, there are some constraints where you keep your ID constant for the MOSFET, and then on that basis the relation will be like this. So constraints, it depends upon the constraint. If you take W by L constant for that device and then you want to pump more current into that MOSFET, then your GM will be behaving with respect to ID like this. But if you keep W by L constant and then you want to check the overdrive voltage of that MOSFET with respect to the GM, then it will behave like this. So it's actually situational dependent. It depends whether your design is having a constant current flowing into it or if you are keeping a W by L constant. That is the thing. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions from the students, BTech students? Are you able to follow?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How about the other one, 2018 1198? Are you able to follow what we are teaching here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you have any doubts related to anything, you can talk to me. We can let me know in case if you have any problem here, because this is very important, which I have discussed, and it forms the foundation for your course later on. So if you have any doubts at any time, let me know. Okay. 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 So today class will be over today, and then next time we will discuss something more in details, and we will go to the small signal analysis, and we will see what kind of discussion we can do after this. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.